surround. Everyone is crying. All the light was fading like the light's back now.
Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I'm Ms. Day. So, right before I started the reading, I was feeling like someone has let go. It's like something really large happened and shifted in your past with a pretty big connection. I feel like as soon as I got ready to start the reading, it was like a huge shift away from your old self and your old cycles and accepting less than you deserve. And then I also feel like a large part of this reading immediately felt like whoever you are surrounded with in your daily environment, a lot of you this is work, and some of you this is even like a relationship that you're letting go of. It's like they don't see you as your evolved self. They don't see you as the higher level that you actually are operating at. They receive you sort of, okay. So this is crazy because I had this crazy dream recently and it makes me think of this reading right now. Thank God, because it was a weird one. It's like there was almost like there's this feeling of you constantly doing your best and having a positive intention, and then constantly also feeling like there's almost like someone naggingly behind you, like trailing after you, trying to make sure other people see you in this negative way, like an older version of you maybe even. It's like there's this odd, I think that whoever I'm talking to, it's like you had a really long, maybe not long, that doesn't always mean something's more intense, like when it's a connection with someone, but there was like this period of time where you were connected with either someone or some group of people, or even just like you connected to something you really worked for in your life. And I think that there was a giant upheaval and it changed. Something happened to where I think that the course of the future changed in a way that nobody expected. But also it was a really large positive for you. I keep thinking of almost like losing something making you have to recognize yourself. Like you had to come face to face with yourself because you were all that was there. And it's like, for some of you, you let go of some toxic connections and some toxic surroundings. And I think that that really helped you in going forward. It helped you in your own healing. Because this doesn't feel like the normal type of isolation where there's almost like a feeling of weight in it. Even though I do think there's a lot of weight in here still, I think a lot of you have sort of and you're embracing a period of time now. Like you're embracing this new period of time where you get to go throughout your own experiences and kind of feel your own self where you are now at this point in your life. Because I think some of you are in a new place that you did not foresee coming. I think a lot of you, I think, thought different people were going to be surrounding you that are not. And even if that's not a sudden thing recently, even though for some of you it is, it's even if it's not a sudden thing, it feels like something that still kind of hits you every now and then where you're re-recognizing, oh yeah, it's totally different. Oh yeah, I am rewriting my own future. I think some of you have gone through a period recently where you used your abilities for this feels like there's a professional thing where you've been using your abilities in a professional way, or you're either healing as a practitioner, or you're using those healing abilities in your work, whatever it is that you do. And it's I think a lot of you are coming to this point in your own journey where you're aligning with your own truth. and the fact that you are more aware of like a larger capacity in yourself. And I feel like at this point, you're trusting your own judgment, which is really huge. It feels like such a matured connection. I feel like I'm talking to people who are definitely like you feel like you're connected and you're interacting with your guides. And the higher frequency, like I feel like I'm talking to people who feel really at home with that, and you feel like it is in your journey and that is the way forward. And this could just be your faith in whatever way that like you apply it in your life. I feel like it's like your beacon right by your side. Neat. That's a crazy thing, because I think that going forward, there's almost like, I think a lot of you are going into this shift internally where you feel very secluded. Like, I feel like you feel very like isolated in a room full of people, where like maybe people that you used to be able to like vibe in there with comfortably, and even if you knew you were in different like levels of whatever in life, you used to be able to do it a little bit easier. And I feel like that's going to get rougher going forward. It makes me feel like whoever you are at this point in time, it's like this journey in this reading feels like enjoy, like it's not always going to feel good as you go forward, and not everyone is kind of there with you. It can feel lonely. And I think a lot of us like need to see signs that we're not alone. And I feel like they're basically saying like keep that feeling of trusting your inner knowing. Keep it going forward with you, like just as strongly in the hard times too. When everything is visibly shaking around you and you're not really sure like who to connect to in the visible world, it's like, I feel like what they're telling you is like, but you're there still. You're still there, and you're still, like, if you carry this sense of discernment and this sense of like trusting that there is a higher good and there is a bigger purpose to everything that you do and have done up to this point, it feels so much like a lot of you left this period of life in the past where you thought it would be less positive of an outcome than it is if this were to happen, this upheaval that did happen. And I think that this going forward thing, they're basically telling you when you feel, oh my gosh, it makes me think of, I think it might be a Robin Williams quote, where it's like he said, I don't know. I could be super wrong in that. But it's like, I think he said something about when you're being alone, surrounded by people, it's like that's worse than actually being alone physically. I don't know. I just butchered that one. But the point is, I feel like the outcome for whoever this reading is for, it's like trusting your own sense of knowing, trusting that faith that kind of like is the beacon, whatever it is that you believe in. It's like it carries you through different periods of life, and you know it. You know what it is. They're like saying to trust that going forward, because that is actually your ability. That is your open doorway. And it's like when you feel like the people that you see kind of fall away and kind of go to the wayside going forward, they're like saying, don't be discouraged. Like you're still there and we are still going with you. I think you're going to alter it. Like I feel like your perception going forward is what's going to change, which is a huge deal because that's what we all want. Like in reality, we want a perception that sees reality as it actually is. Like, isn't that what truth is? It's just reality without any filters. And it's like, going forward, I think that your sense of loneliness, your feeling of lonely, it's like, it's a state of mind. Oh my gosh, that's nuts. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but it does feel like that's the message. Like they're saying it's a state of mind. And you know what's nuts? Right before I was going to start this reading, it's like I thought you started with such open arms. That's a big part of this. Like you started with such open arms to like all connections and all things when you were free and going out into the world. And it's like getting hurt and going through all of these shocking sort of like turbulent times. I think that they're basically saying like, don't lose hope. Even when it looks hopeless, they're like, it only looks hopeless. It's never been hopeless. And that's something too that I feel like this is a huge message is look at your past self. Look at the connections you had and let go of before even some of these connections you didn't actually want to let go of. They're like, look at certain things you've let go of and just like ask yourself in this moment going forward, like, would you rather go back to that version of yourself in order to not feel alone surrounded by people that you can see? Or would you rather like let yourself get full and like surround yourself by your own acceptance, like your own sense of knowing can blossom around you? It feels very much like going forward. This sounds so silly, but right when I was going to start the reading, I just kept thinking attitude is everything. And I feel like that is what they are saying going forward. They're like, literally, it's just this little blip of a mindset that you can alter and your entire outlook will change. They're like, all you have to do is think about being awakened and enlightened. I feel like a lot of you think you're on this path of enlightenment, and they're saying, hone in on that. What moments have blown your mind? Because it's like, this is one of those shifts where you've done the work to get to this place. Why would you be punished for it by who you have to be surrounded with, you know? So like if some of you are feeling like, oh my gosh, this is an exhausting ending to this journey, they're like, you're going to change your mindset and that's going to change your future. It sounds so cliche, but that's like so many of the messages this week. It feels like what they're saying is little bitty decisions make big changes. Big results are going to be happening just because of what you change now going forward. And use all of your strengths, all of those little bitty strengths that like add up. That is the motion. That's the momentum. The momentum is like you grab hold by going upward. You can't be like, oh, this is going to drag me down. And it is hard to not be like pulled backwards when you feel like you're surrounded by people that don't really see you the way that you actually are now. But like when your perception changes, that becomes your motion. That becomes what carries you forward. And I think that the outcome going forward here, they're going to be like, this is what you've got to look back at some old connections. And I know that if you're hearing this reading, you are glad that some of those connections ended. Like you are so happy that you got totally moved in another direction, even though at the time it didn't feel that good. It might have felt like soul wrenching, you know, and this might be one of those moments where they're like, you're not necessarily going to see all of these cool feelings because of the growth that you've already gone through, but like, would you give it up? Because I think that what they're telling you is alone is, oh my gosh, and this is not everyone, but this is definitely some of you where they're like saying alone may not always feel healthy, but what's healthy doesn't always feel natural. Like sometimes I think a lot of you like having a healthy relationship even with yourself, even when you look in the mirror. Like it may not feel natural to you to always feel good about that. That may feel like a pie in the sky thing, whatever that means, you know? And it's like they're saying actually it is like that is the part that you are missing. You're missing the part that makes you blossom. Like don't look for external things to like prove to you what you've gone through. Isn't that nuts? It's like we want outside validation, but like us just feeling validated in our walk, that is true validation. That's when we really accept that our truth has a place, no matter who's accepting of it, no matter who's aware of it, no matter who's judging. Like, your truth has a place in whatever direction you go. It can be full. You don't have to filter it. Some of you, I feel like there's almost like this tender sort of wall up. Now, this is not all of you. This is not all of you. This feels like there are some of you where it's like you've got this wall up to projecting your truth outward. And that might have to do with like a professional thing. I feel like that has to do with work sometimes in here. And that can be like tricky. I think some of you would like say that's like a slippery slope, because you can go too far there if you're like trying to have your personal demands met at work is like, that's kind of like tipping a scale. But when it comes to this type of thing, it's like what they're telling you is having that time surrounded. I think some of you need to take a bigger breather, like away. It's like you need a bigger unplug moment instead of just a rest. It's like they're saying unplug further than that, because when you are growing and you're going through all of this stuff, that is something really important to actually like to get comfortable with it and experiencing new things. Sometimes your interactions just out in the world as a creature, that exists amongst other people and just nature as it's flowing, it's like sometimes just being in the flow, no matter what you do or don't do in it, it shakes you up enough to where you have to remember who you are. Like you have to remember, oh, this is who I am. And I feel like that's what they're telling you. Like with this going forward thing, they're like, stop forgetting your own reasons for your own growth. Stop like forgetting who you see you as, because you're so concerned about how they're seeing you. A lot of times, like when we're really sensitive to other people's energy, it can feel super insecure and almost like that whole everybody's staring at me thing, even if they're not, or even if they are and they don't even know why they're being drawn to you for whatever reason, And I think that a lot of you in here, you're so sensitive to it that it's like it becomes like a pew, 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 like an overbearing thing that puts you down. And it's like when you're a healed person, you've already been way down really low. So it's easy to kind of get down there and get stuck. So just remember going forward that what you've learned along the way, that has a right here. It has a reason. There's a reason for every single bit of what you've gone through. So you have to get like, it's almost, this sounds weird, but it's like a thicker skin, because you're carrying more, like you're flowing more, you're filtering more. It's like you're filtering all of the high level stuff. And it's like, if the low level stuff is kind of coming at you, or you're being seen as the low level, then it's like you can put good out. And then if it's not received, it's just like, oh, and it just kind of like draws in more low. You know what I mean? I think I'm like asking like you're going to be able to respond. Anyway, let me know in the comments, if this resonates with you. And if you feel like the readings resonate with you at all, then subscribe to my channel and allow for notifications for future videos so that you know when I upload new ones. I'm also going to add a membership for those of you that are having like neck pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, knee pain, back pain. That's all the stuff that I did personal training. And I feel like I would sense like what people's pain spots were, and that happens a lot with the personal readings. So I think that if you're someone who's like looking for some sort of way to like stretch out and circulate your body, this is something I want to start doing, because it's also something that there are certain motions throughout yoga that activate the endocrine glands throughout your endocrine system. So your connection can literally improve just by you circulating your systems better. Like just by you putting a little bit more physical effort every day in these little teeny tiny moments. Like, you can give yourself more circulation. You can just give yourself a conscious connection that your body is going to breathe deeper. And just like the importance of a moment is everything there. So if you're someone who doesn't breathe deeply, or like you have shallow breathing when you start to get worried or something, like, just give yourself teeny tiny moments where you're just breathing deeper than you did the moment before. That one moment can make a huge difference in like just adapting you forward. Anyway, super cool. I love that I'm talking to people that are aware of their own abilities, because that feels like a huge centerpiece of this reading, where it's like you're very aware of your connection, and they're like, if you're so solid about that, make sure going forward that you remain solid about that. That's going to be your beacon. It's like you're going to actually, your mindset is your own light. Like, that's going to be your own light source going forward. Oh, it's so neat. Okay. So let me know if that resonates. I hope you guys have a really great rest of your night, and let me know if you are interested in a personal reading by sending me an email, which is in the description of the channel.